China fired a nuclear-capable missile from a submarine into the Pacific. A few hours warning, no details, inside a nuclear-free zone. Experts say the message was deliberate. China now has a fully operational nuclear triad. The Middle East is on fire. America is distracted. Beijing just reminded the world it has missiles that reach the continental United States. China has triggered fresh concern across the Indo-Pacific after test firing what is believed to be a nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile from a nuclear-powered submarine into the Pacific Ocean. According to Chinese state media, the unarmed missile was launched shortly after midday on July 6th as part of what Beijing described as a routine annual military exercise. Chinese officials said the missile flew thousands of kilometers before landing in international waters in the southern Pacific. The launch was China's first submarine-based intercontinental ballistic missile test over the Pacific in almost 2 years, and immediately drew criticism from the United States, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and Taiwan. The launch took place inside the South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone, established under the 1986 Treaty of Rarotonga. Although Beijing says the missile carried no warhead, the location and timing heightened alarm among regional governments. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese described the launch as a destabilizing signal.
This was a test of a nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile fired from a nuclear-powered submarine. That's of real concern because what we need is fewer nuclear weapons, certainly not more. And the fact that this test took place yesterday with very little notice is of real concern.
Australia also criticised China for providing only a few hours warning before the launch. Foreign Minister Penny Wong said the exercise came amid a rapid Chinese military build-up that lacked transparency and reassurance expected by the region. The United States echoed those concerns. A State Department official said China's notification arrived only hours before the launch and failed to meet the standards followed by the world's recognized nuclear powers.
China's notification to the United States came only a few hours before the launch and failed to provide sufficient detail, falling considerably short of standards adopted by all other P5 nuclear weapon states. The test occurred amid China's rapid and opaque nuclear weapons buildup and is of great concern to the region.
Washington also urged Beijing to resume strategic stability and arms control discussions, saying the launch without established advance notification mechanisms was irresponsible. China rejected the criticism. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning insisted the missile test was a standard military activity that targeted no country and urged governments not to overinterpret the exercise. Responding to the United States, Mao accused Washington of applying double standards.
The test was not directed at any specific country. China has always adhered to international law and does not threaten regional peace. The Pacific missile test was conducted in accordance with international law and established international practice. The launch exposed the United States' double standards, which consistently points fingers at China's defense activities. The United States and the international community should refrain from interfering in China's internal affairs.
The test also alarmed Pacific Island nations. Solomon Islands Prime Minister Matthew Whale said no country should be testing intercontinental ballistic missiles in the Pacific, warning that such actions threatened regional security, regardless of who conducted them.
China is a good friend of Solomon Islands, but this is not something a friend does. This is not good in our region. And as chair of the Pacific Islands Forum, I registered my strong protest yesterday with the ambassador. Solomon Islands also lodged a protest note. But we don't want to see any more countries, China, America, anybody. We don't want anybody testing the ICBMs in the Pacific Islands region. That's the bottom line.
Taiwan described the launch as another attempt by Beijing to intimidate the international community while increasing military pressure across the region. The missile is widely believed to have been launched from a Type 094 nuclear submarine carrying the new JL-3 missile, a system capable of reaching much of the continental United States from protected waters close to China's coastline. Experts said the test carried a message that extended beyond routine validation. Evan Medeiros, former senior director for Asia on the National Security Council, said China was signaling the completion of a strategic capability Washington had long sought to prevent.
Most basically, China needed to technically validate its newest submarine-launched ballistic missile capability. But there was a broader message to the world. China now has a fully operational nuclear triad. China is probing the boundaries of U.S. defense strategy.
Experts also noted the timing. The launch coincided with Australia and Fiji signing a new defense agreement and comes as Beijing competes with Washington and its allies for influence across the Pacific Islands. The exercise adds to mounting concerns over China's expanding nuclear arsenal, growing submarine fleet, and increasingly assertive military posture, raising fresh questions about strategic stability in one of the world's most contested regions. The relationship between Moscow and Beijing is growing deeper than previously known. Ukraine's military intelligence, known as HUR, says more than 550 Chinese troops have undergone internships at Russian military institutions as part of an expanding program of bilateral military cooperation. In a statement provided to Kyiv Post, HUR said the exchanges have become a consistent practice, involving cadets, instructors, and military educators from both countries. According to the agency, the program runs in both directions. In November 2025 alone, more than 180 Russian military personnel completed internships at Chinese military academies, specializing in infantry, armored warfare, engineering, aviation, and air defense.
A consistent practice has been formed of conducting mutual internships of cadets, as well as instructor and scientific and pedagogical staff at higher military educational institutions and training centers of the armed forces of the Russian Federation and the People's Liberation Army of China.
The Ukrainian intelligence agency says more than 550 Chinese soldiers have also completed internships at higher military educational institutions in Russia, suggesting defense cooperation extends beyond joint military exercises. The disclosure adds to growing Western concerns over Beijing's support for Moscow. Although China continues to describe itself as neutral in the war in Ukraine, Kyiv and several Western governments argue that Chinese exports of dual-use technology have helped sustain Russia's military production. China has publicly maintained it is a neutral party in the Ukraine war, a position that has grown increasingly difficult to sustain under scrutiny. However, previous reports have also pointed to expanding defense ties. Reuters reported earlier this year, citing European intelligence sources, that around 200 Russian troops had received military training in China, with some later deployed to the battlefield in Ukraine. US-based think tank the Institute for the Study of War reported in September 2025 that Chinese firms were contributing to Russia's production of long-range drones. A Bloomberg report in April 2026 echoed similar findings. Last month, the two countries announced a joint naval drill in the Pacific, dubbed Joint Sea 2026, to be conducted near Qingdao. Meanwhile, China and Russia continue to publicly deepen military cooperation. The growing partnership has also drawn political criticism in Europe. Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre has urged Beijing to use its influence over Moscow to push for a negotiated end to the war, warning that Europe-China relations will remain constrained as long as Beijing maintains close strategic ties with Russia. Neither Moscow nor Beijing has publicly responded to Ukraine's latest claims about the scale of the bilateral military internship program.